And he's the guy who thinks that you're gonna reverse deindustrialization with like yoga studios. That's his deal, right? Like he's the yoga congressman, I think, like the
He's
wellness guy.
he's
Oh,
written
yes,
twice as
wellness.
many books as Vance. He wrote one about wellness and one about a different kind of wellness, which is like healthy eating. But yeah, that,
And he is in a primary against Morgan Harper, a senior advisor for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. She's anti-monopolist. She's a Medicare for All supporter, a public transit investment supporter. She's pro Act, etc. Assume she does not have a chance here.
not really. This is Ohio is going to be weird for progressives unless they get a lot of momentum because you got Nina Turner's rematch and you have Harper running against Ryan. But like it's neither of them have figured out uh, how to win over an electorate who's just like really panicked. And I mean, if you're an Ohio Democrat, everything's falling apart. You went from like
Hmm.
winning to losing in like 5 years. So Ryan just raised a ton of money too for a guy who never mattered in the presidential. And he's run this. I mean, he's gotten attention with. It. He's run this real what we think worked for Bill Clinton kind of campaign, where his first ad was just him saying the word China, I think like 12 times, and just but you go back to his campaign, they're like, "Yep, it works. Like we're in Ohio. We're not listening to the woke folks anymore. We're gonna bash China. That is what people want." And
I
Harper
think
has not done
if people are panicking, he should tell them to breathe. Just breathe.
that.
Feel your body. Feel that you're inhabiting your body. Feel the space that you're in.
Yeah,
Honestly,
not doing that as much.
that we really are just getting different, prescriptions here that boil down to the same thing. Nothing can be done
Hmm.
about any of the actual structures of dominance in your life. You have to look within. That's it. And it's just a different specific prescription depending on like the cultural valence, but the underlying premise is identical.
Well, it also sounds like if we do get both Vance and Ryan in there, we will, by the end of the general debates, have at least one candidate for Ohio Senate pledging to deploy the Ohio National Guard into Beijing or something. So, looking forward to the great Ohio China War of 2023. But let's move on then to Pennsylvania, the Keystone State. This is maybe one of the better chances for a Dem flip. Right now, leading the Democratic primaries, we have John Fetterman. He's the big guy with the goatee, right?
He is very big, large goatee. He's less big than he used to be. He lost like 100 pounds,
Oh,
which on a guy his I think he's 6'9". On a guy his size, you notice it, but he had room to spare.
so he has been leading the Democratic primaries. More recently, though, he has been come under attack from the other candidates over a shotgun kerfuffle. Apparently, when he was mayor of Braddock, Pennsylvania in 2013, Fetterman used a shotgun to detain, did not fire, but, threatened with a shotgun to detain an unarmed black jogger, claiming that Fetterman had heard shots in the area and then just chased off after this guy with a shotgun who was running near his house. This is becoming a bit of an issue and digging his points a little bit in the primary, but it seems like he's going to withstand that and go on. What do you think, Dave?
Yeah, that story has been used against him in every time he's kind of got momentum, which is not that often. So he ran for Senate in 16. He got kind of owned, but it was the same time as Bernie, so he got a lot of that juice. And then 2018 he runs for lieutenant governor, and that's when they really try this. Like he's not that popular with a lot of Pittsburgh activists. If you know many Pittsburgh leftists, he has pissed a lot of people off. He's always, I mean, the thing that really pissed him off originally was he's not for stopping fracking, and wouldn't go along with the line on that.
Mhm.
But so yeah, they knew this was coming, and it's been used either by Malcolm Kenyatta, who's this black state rep from Philly, who used to be friendly with Fetterman, or Connor Lamb, who's a white guy from a rich part of the Pittsburgh area. So both of these guys have been running around in the debates talking about how Fetterman did this, and the problem I think for them is their argument is that like we can't win the election with a guy who did this, and
Mhm.
it is not clear that the swing voter is gonna look at that, especially now. Like there are Democrats I think who look at this and say, "Boy, wouldn't it be great if our candidate had like chased down a jogger with a gun? Then we
Mhm.
could go on air and say I support law enforcement. In fact, I've even dabbled in it." Like, and it has not been dragging him down at all. And then with Lamb, just they had a theory that you could win all these like local party endorsements and all this support from your Democratic clubs, and he is. I mean, I've covered him both. He's like a more affable, backslapping guy than Fetterman, and just hasn't really worked because Democrats are so scared that they think, well, the guy with the goatee. who people think is a wrestler, I think can convince my MAGA friend. But the guy who's just like a Democratic congressman, I don't think is going to do it. It's like a very electability panicky argument that has helped the Bernie guy, which is unexpected.
It's interesting to me,
Yeah.
that even though Lamb and Kenyatta, those guys have absolutely been getting blown out in polling for months now by Fetterman, that there's not been any pressure on them to drop out and stop their negative campaign against the presumptive Senate nominee in order to band together to defeat the Republican. It seems weird that there is no institutional pressure being put on these guys for what I mean by the fact they're still running these negative ads trying to
Mhm.
remind people about Fetterman's incident with the shotgun after it's very clear they're not going to win.
Hmm.
Wouldn't the party, if it was really as interested as it claims in electability and it is beating Republicans and saving democracy, wouldn't they do something? It's almost as like there's like a civil war going on in the party, not so much between anything ideological sides because that was determined by the 2020 election, but rather by patronage networks. Like the thing with Fetterman, the reason that they're still gonna like try to cut his knees out, even though he's got the nomination clinched at this point, is because he's not in the right circles. He doesn't pay the right people. I guess he doesn't. He is not like a flaming leftist, and his image polls well. Like he is not. There's nothing that is a poison pill about him to the electorate. That's obvious. That's not something that any of them really believe. They're just trying to prevent this specific guy from getting in the Senate, and I can't understand why, other than he's not part of the team.
Yeah, and it's not many people who agree with that. That Lamb has not found a lot of people willing to join him in bringing Fetterman down. There's the PAC didn't raise a ton. I mean, it raised more than 1 million, but not enough to kill a candidate who's raised a lot more than that. And then also, Politico had a pretty good story after this PAC started attacking Fetterman, where they just went around the Senate asking Democrats, the reaction was basically he should take that down. Can we not? Like we don't need this right now. Just no attitude um, in favor of let's have like a messy fight inside the family to help hurt one candidate who we think is fine and can win. And it's I think a lot of it runs through this panic, like, oh, we thought 2020 was going to be a sweep and it wasn't, so now we're scared of the electorate. We're like, why would we do anything to screw up what is already going to be really hard? But yeah, you did not see Democrats rallying around and panicking the way they did with other Bernie candidates and saying this guy must be stopped. It just didn't happen with Fetterman.
Well, let's move on to the Republican side. This is kind of a mirror of the Ohio Republican primaries because you basically have the meme candidate versus another hedge fund guy. And that is Dr. Oz making a play to become a MAGA guy versus Dave McCormick, who is the hedge fund guy. The key issues here, as of the last debate, were fracking. Oz was once against it for health reasons and now says, frack, baby, frack. In a heated debate recently, Oz was complaining to the moderator, notably, about the other candidates, claiming multiple times, she's not following the rules. I follow the rules. And
Ooh,
then the moderator threatened to mute microphones over a barrage of
that's
crossfire.
some nerd shit, man. That's embarrassing.
Yeah.
That's some real Democrat shit.
But Oz got the Trump endorsement, which you pointed out, Matt, must be or could partially be to blame of just TV celeb guy solidarity.
There is that. He's another guy from the TV, and therefore he thinks of him as Trump thinks of him as more of an equal than these political insects that he has to deal with. But I think there's also a real calculus for electoral success here because, as I said, Trump wants people who like him and kiss his ass and affirm his version of reality, but he also wants people who will win because he feels like he is lost if a guy that that he endorses loses, and so he always has to create an ex post facto explanation for why he didn't actually endorse him and they didn't
Mhm.
technically lose. But he would like to avoid that if possible. So he's not just picking Oz because hey, another famous guy. He does have a theory for the case as to why he's the best candidate.